to ensure the freedom and the democracy of this way of life, that we have this freedom. You know, we as Aboriginal people understand some of the historical traumas that we went through to be where we're at today. And it took the strength of the warriors, the veterans. And I'm not only talking about the ones that are in uniform, but the ones that stood up on those front lines. I always mention my grandfather. He was born in Stanley Park in 1895. He was one of the first ones of the Native Brotherhood here in Vancouver. His office was right across the street at Main and Hastings. And they stood up for our rights. But in order to do that, because at that time, it was illegal for them to do what we're doing today in a traditional, in a cultural, and a spiritual manner. They used to sing this song, "Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war." He said that's what they had to do in order to make a Christian gathering, because that's the only time that our old people could gather. So they used to sing that song, and then they'd sit down and talk business. And they did that for 45 years, until the day they came and said, "Well, you've got to retire." He was 75 years old. And he was a man of gathering his own medicine, cut his own firewood. A very strong person. And he knew the old people. He was connected to them. And he traveled through British Columbia carrying that message of who we are today and what our responsibilities were towards the sacred. When we look at the Cenotaph, that represents the sacredness of our life. It represents male and female in a spiritual manner. And when it comes together, it creates sacred. And when we look at ourselves as human beings, as male and female, when we come together, we create sacredness, and that's called our children. And that's what we are here today for. And that's what our veterans were going off to those wars. That's what our uncle talked about for the future. And many of the people that don't understand, we talk about the 7 generations of our people. And we are only the first generation of our healing. Get with it. To heal and to straighten out, to make amends, to reconcile. That was the strength of our people. And those are the things that we as young people are picking up today. And that was encouraged by our elders, and especially by the veterans that went off into those different lands and different wars. If you could hear the stories of our veterans, then you would understand. We're not here to glorify it, we're here to honor those veterans that gave up their life. We're not here to glorify war in any way. Because we pray today, there's a lot of conflicts happening. And I see some blue berets here. We served in those countries to make peace, so that people could live together, work together. And that's the teachings of our old ones. So yeah, not so much. One mind, one heart will work together, and things will work out in a good way. That's how our communities work. You could imagine pre-contact, this great harbor they called Burrard Inlet. We're told there were some 35,000 people who used to live here. We have a map that goes way back to the early 1800s. Shows that every village that was here, and it announces the names of those villages. So it's not new for our people to be here on this land, even where we stand. It was a very pivotal point in our history with the 4 nations: the red, the black, the white, and the red. This was the center of that industry of our country here. All kinds of people who walked through here, the natives throughout British Columbia worked in the fishing industry on the waterfront. There were Sikhs, there was Hindus, there was Chinese, Japanese. They lived here in this town, and they lived together, and they thrived. They thrived. Why? Because that's a lot. They work together. And those are the things that we look at, and we want to pass on to our children. We want to pass that teaching on to our children so that it goes in a good way. And the only way that we can